Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief, where we invest with fighter pilot precision on a daily basis. Today, we're going to talk about big tech earnings. Obviously, Tesla started us off yesterday. Yeah, you could say car company. They're also big tech as well, as how I consider them. So they beat earnings after the bell, actually pretty significant beat, and the stock sold off. So how can that happen? Well, that happens all the time. It depends. Some stocks are priced to perfection, if you will, and that's what you could say could happen to all of the holdings this week. I think the best one is probably positioned to go higher is Apple, and then Amazon has been on a tear. So that's one that I could see Amazon beating earnings and actually selling off a little bit just because it's gone up so much in such a short period of time. So back to Tesla. Elon Musk on the call explained that he had sold a bunch of Bitcoin. So part of their profitability was the fact that they bought and sold Bitcoin, which is pretty interesting. That that counts, right? Well, it certainly does. Portnoy and Elon Musk obviously had a little bit of a banter back and forth on on that. Elon Musk clarified he did not sell any of his personal holdings of Bitcoin, so it was only a business decision for Tesla, again, proving its liquidity. So pretty interesting there of a company, loading up on Bitcoin on its balance sheet and then selling it to become, for profitability's sake. So interesting move there. All right, so today we have Microsoft and Google reporting. Tomorrow we have Apple and Facebook. Obviously, Apple is a very large position for many of us across the book there. Still a bunch of Facebook sitting around that we've had for a long time, not as much as we used to, though. And then, of course, Amazon. We've been loading up on Amazon since the bottom of the March 24th dip last year, which is a little over a year ago now. Amazon was around 1,500. It's knocking on the door of 3,500 right now. So anybody who bought Amazon the past year has made money. So those are the earnings that are coming out today. If you want to join us, if you're checking us out on replay, thanks. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications bell. If you want to join us in the morning, what you don't see off to the side is a Q&A window as well as a chat window where my folks communicate with me and ask me questions, and I can answer them real time. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back, everyone. Here's our lineup card for the day. Make sure you have your chat window and your Q&A window set up appropriately and set to all attendees for communications. All right, standard disclaimer applies. If this is a financial education presentation, you have to do your own due diligence before acting upon anything you read this morning. And full disclaimer information is available at ototnow.com. All right, our mission objectives today: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Specifically talking about growing our money, right? We're talking about big tech earnings. We talked briefly in the open about Tesla, how they beat earnings, guided up, talked about, I'm looking at another screen, about increasing deliveries by 50%. I mean, these are amazing numbers that they're putting up, and stock sold off. Maybe it was because they sold $100 million in Bitcoin, juiced their profitability a little bit because obviously that was up big. But it's the perfect quarter, it seemed, and the stock has already run up enough to where it actually sells off this morning. So what big tech do we have going? You can look down under here: long-term investments, Google and Microsoft today, Apple, Facebook tomorrow, then Amazon on Thursday. So we're going to take a look at each of those with kind of my prediction and go from there. Question today will be, what are the Roth IRA limits? There's always some confusion with this, so I will cover those. Even though most people think they have it straight in their head, hearing it over and over, helps to clarify if there's any confusion there at all. For our flow today, it'll be long, short, open, short, long, meaning we're going to go around the world. We're going to come back to the U.S., take a look at the headline, review there, and then get into our long-term investments and our short-term execution. Short-term stuff, I just put it in the chat. I don't really like many of these. Long UPS is about the only one I like. The GameStop one is up 8%. They issued 500,000 in shares. I mean, just kind of craziness numbers, but it's up 8%. It does meet our criteria. The shorts are all pretty thin, so be careful. Expect the UPS long once we get to that portion of the show. All right. Academic resources and contingencies are standard. All right, let's come over to the TD Ameritrade ThinkPipes platform. Have a setup for the UPS long here in the middle left pane, Hydro Farm in the middle right pane, and then Ocugen in the far right screen for getting things set up. All right, here's your S&P 500. So you can see, yes, excuse me. Yesterday kind of hung around the even mark pretty much all day long. There was a couple of big sells in there, and then it started to come back towards the end. But overall, we're bouncing off those all-time highs in the middle of earnings week, which means generally, more highs. So I wouldn't be surprised to see green all week. Here's your 5-day in the SPY. Here's what I was talking about yesterday during this blue, as we had a little bit of a sell-off there, and it bounced up into the close. Pretty flat to up going into today's open. All right, let's go over to CNBC and check out the headlines. Going around the world first, there's our futures. Let's refresh those real quick. So almost in the green across the board. Dow still hanging out a little bit in the red there. In Europe, red across the board, not moving very much. Asia mixed. Again, no big moves there. There's our numbers from yesterday. Pretty big move up in tech, right? And that's what you expect during earnings week. 10-year staying below that 1.6, so not too worried there. Oil gained slightly yesterday on some demand issues that I saw. Gold and silver creeping higher, still pretty low overall. And then Bitcoin, again, up to 55,000, continuing its kind of retracement. I do think Musk's point, when Musk and Elon Musk and Dave Portnoy were kind of duking it out back and forth about, Portnoy was saying, hey, this is a pump and dump on your part, right? You bought it, put it on your balance sheet, got everybody else to buy it, and then you sold it, right? And he's like, that's BS. Well, Elon Musk said, I didn't sell my personal holdings. So, this was a business decision, not a valuation of Bitcoin decision. And if anything, it does prove that you can actually transact in it a little bit. Obviously, the numbers are high. And some NFL player came out and said he wants to be paid in Bitcoin. Again, you don't get paid in Bitcoin, you get paid in dollars, but the league said they would convert it to Bitcoin. Whatever, but it does prove a little more functionality, the fact that that they sold some of it. So I think that lends credence to it. Maybe they'll start the run back higher north of 60 here soon. All right, back to the headlines of today. There you go. There's front and center, right? Tesla's Bitcoin speculation boosted by $100 million is the extra money they made just by having that. Net income surges by 74%. I mean, if you just saw this right here, right, you would say, okay, the stock's up, what, 8% this morning? No, it's down 2%. So again, so that can happen in the tech world when things are priced to perfection. Crocs is back. They've crushed earnings this morning. I'm not going to invest in Crocs or even try to trade them. Still Crocs, still shoes. Oh, here's a $30 target on GameStop. GameStop is sitting at, what is it at now? 170 and going higher this morning by 10%. So it's kind of crazy, still being manipulated. You issue 500,000 shares, or 500 million shares of stock. You would think that the stock would sell off just because you got diluted. It doesn't. It's going higher. So still there's some insanity going on in GameStop. BP beat earnings. It's too far gone to get in to the BP land. There you go. 551 million. Sorry, I said shares. It's $1 million in stock sales, and it jumps. Normally, again, that's diluting and stock's worth less, but not today. Yep, new iOS update on the iPhone. We got everything updated yesterday. It works with all the new gear that's coming out here at the end of the month, if you will. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Tesla. It's kind of a precursor going into going into the earnings for Microsoft and Google today. So here you have Tesla. It's been kind of creeping higher going into these earnings. It's almost impossible to value, right? Because we looked at these, I think it was yesterday.
If you think adventure is a young man's game, let's retire that thinking.
And with Target.
That's weird. It has marked no sound, but yet sound comes out. All right. Yeah, traditional valuation, almost impossible on this thing, right? 6% float. One of you chimed in this morning on a text about time to short Tesla, right? No, I'm done shorting Tesla, and I know that was making fun of me, which is right, because I'm 0 for life on Tesla investing. But you see all of this, and that's why it can sell off, is because it's arguably traditionally, ridiculously overvalued, which is my point. But when you look at something like Microsoft, and you can really kind of see, okay, this is far more of your traditional valuation, right? So you can see these P ratios, 40 down to 32 if their earnings continues. You do get a little bit of a dividend, hardly any short float, nobody betting against it. You see some red, but predominantly when you glance at this, you see mostly green. So you think more of a fairly valued company. So if they crush earnings today, which, I think they will, right? You coming out of these are, exploding back open. I do think you see a Microsoft go higher. We'll take a look at Google here real quick. Same sort of thing, more of your traditional type numbers, no dividend. But when you look at this, it's generally all green across the board here for Google. I'm a big fan. It is killing me this morning with these ads. It's moved up a lot. We've been buying in the 2000 range here. Now it's up to 23, 26. Again, if you don't have any, you can buy a share or two. But if you have some, you don't need to add any more here. Just take the ride. And lastly, the last one I'll talk about is Apple, of course, because it's a fave, and we'll probably have that on as one of our topics this week. Apple dipped down here and hung at 120 for a long time. It's marching back higher. I think Apple is poised out of everybody the best to go higher. You look at their valuation, technically cheaper than Google, technically cheaper than Microsoft. You're like, how is that possible? Well, it just is, right? It's got a very small dividend for you out here. Nobody's betting against Apple. So when you look at this, it's almost all green. There's a couple of red numbers on there, but even those red numbers aren't even that bad. So performance over last year, 90%. But when you look at the chart, you're like, oh yeah, this could easily go higher. All right, let's go over and get set up for the market open and get rid of FinViz. That's kind of horking me off this morning. So we're going to kill those guys completely. All right, here we are on the day trading screen, TD Ameritrade. Let me get set up for the open. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target play of the day. You have 4 screens in front of you on the TD Ameritrade ThinkPipes platform. On the far left, we have the 1 minute and the SPY, which is kind of trending higher, and the SPY is in the green this morning. On the middle left, we have UPS, which crushed earnings. They're up about 8%. So looking for an entry there for long. And then the other two are shorts. I don't really like these that much, but I have them up there. Hydro Farm on earnings and acquisition. And then Ocugen's just a basic reach. From being up so high. So I'll actually zoom out a little bit here so you can see how high this thing's been in, and it's kind of coming back down. So really looking for an entry long into UPS. It's the only one I like. It's going to be a $2 stop. So we're going to wait for it to establish the low of the day as the people take profits and then go back in. Let's zoom out here on this. Let's move down here in Hydro Farm. So, all right, low of the day, let's call it 189.7. We use a dollar stop on this. So it's a tight stop of 190.7. It's going to be in here. Just making some notes for myself. 197 right now, it would be a $1 stop. So 193.7 would be your exit. So get ready for that. Actually, next time it comes up here, we're going to take it. Did have an interesting move there. Okay, get ready to take this at 190 and 70 cents. Let's give it a little more to 190.80. Be a $1.10 stop. That hydro farm is striping down, just sitting there watching that going short all the way down over 10%. There we go. We're in at 190.80. Again, this is a long. $1.10 is the stop. Just wanted to be a little more conservative on that entry there than grabbing it earlier. So our stop down here is 189.70 is the low of the day. So adding 110 to this, so 191.90 would be our first R point. So that's right here. We'll zoom out a little bit. So in at 190.80, we're at 191.90. So that puts the next at 193, which is off the screen. So we're into UPS long for our trade. All right, Hydro Farm down over 11%. Oxygen, you can see it went up all the way to 1365 and then kind of retraced back down. So there's no real story with Oxygen other than the fact that it went from 5 to almost 14. Now it's just kind of settling back in. It doesn't really fit with our trade philosophy, but it's certainly in motion. All right, let's look at GameStop, see what's going on with it. You'd have to think it'd be selling off after jumping up by 8%. Doesn't fit with our trading strategy. But you would have to think with a $30 price target on this thing that it would sell off. But then again, you're playing with the Wall Street Bet / Reddit folks. So really it could do about anything. I wouldn't call it all that predictable. All right, let's take a look. The only other short I had was Polaris, PII, coming off or Polaris, excuse me. Coming out of earnings, you can see they did beat earnings there. $2.11 on earnings. They were down over 5% earlier, but they're kind of gap filling there, so can't really touch that. All right, so we're in our trade. We're up at about the R point. Again, the exit point, exact exit point will be 194.10. So we're at the 1 R point. I'm going to leave this trade. So have this pulled up on another screen. Have your stop set. Lower stop 189.70. Upper stop 194.10 is what we're looking at for 3R. Okay, let's see what we have going on in the bigger picture here. Can transition to long-term thinking. DraftKings is up 3%. That's an option you see there up at the top. Moderna on a bounce of 3.2%. It sold off yesterday. There's your GBTC. Talked about this earlier. Again, I don't have a better option for mimicking Bitcoin other than GBTC. I know it's expensive. I know it's inefficient, but I need a better option to trade out of it, and I don't have that yet. Nikola been a dumpster fire, but it's bouncing a little bit. Let's see what else we have here. There's Amazon going into earnings, creeping up a little bit. Looking for some of our other tech names. I don't see them. All right, let's take a look at what's in the red today. Tesla down again 2.74 after earnings. Luckin selling off a little bit. CRISPR Therapeutics, I saw it jump in here. I've been buying that. It's been on quite the bounce. I'm going to pull that up. CRSP. So yeah, it's been on kind of a steady march higher this in the past 5 days. So selling off a little bit. I still think it's a buy, long-term leader in gene therapy there. All right, back to the green. Don't see anything of note. Chinese tech starting to rebound. Well, let's look at KWeb. I want to say yes, but let's look at the facts. So that's a 5-day chart. So you can say yes with that, but that's a little bit of a, that's zoomed in. Let's go 20-day. So yeah, so here we go. Which this is Tuesday, about 3 weeks ago. Um, so yeah, so 20 days is basically a month worth of trading, if you will, because there's 5 trading days per month. So it was up here at 81 and then went all the way down to 72 and then kind of coming back. So I've been just an acquirer of KWeb and acquirer of Baba. Those are my two favorites. There are some um, other options that are out there. But as far as Chinese tech, is it back? I don't know. It's too hard to tell. I love it for the long term, but again, that's a very patient investment. Don't expect it to just pop up out of nowhere. When you look at Baba, there's everything to love about this whole company, except for the fact that the government's going after it for monopoly, right? So it's getting a lot of pressure. That's what's holding this stock back. If the government would ease up on it, I think you would see this rage higher. It was up to, I think, 320. Let's check my memory here. Yeah, 320 back in, around our election time here in the U.S. So what's that? 5 months ago, 6 months ago. So look at that path after the election. So that's what I would have expected with a Trump victory, right? Because he's going to go back hard after China. People expected, or I certainly expected it with a Biden victory, that the Chinese firms would go higher because traditionally Democrats are a touch weaker on China. You could argue all of that. We're not going to. I'm just saying that was the expectation going in, and it's all the way down here. So again, I think this is a buy opportunity. The question in the chat is the India COVID situation impacting any company that I track? And I would say not directly. There may be some indirect exposure to some companies out there, but none that I can tie directly. I don't have like a direct Indian play. Trade Desk is just opened into India 6 months ago, so they're probably a little bit affected. I see they're in the green today. But yeah, I do think that it is kind of scary what's going on in India with COVID. And if that continues, that could be bad. Obviously, you probably saw some headlines about extra U.S. vaccines being diverted, or some remaining contracts with the U.S. now that we're almost saturated with vaccines, being diverted over to India, and that we're going to help them out. Hopefully that situation stabilizes. I mean, nobody wins. Nobody wins in that situation. So good questions. All right, let's check back on our trade, see how we're doing. Ooh, we're out of our trade. Love it. So our 194.10 was our exit point. So we blew right through that. So that's the 3R trade. Very nice. Get that drawn in there for the exit point, and then 193 was the 2R point. And I'll recap the trade. All right, so we were down here. We watched the market open. It sold off. We let it establish the low of the day, and we went just below that at 189.70. We took the entry going back higher. I talked about 190.70. I chose 190.80 just to give it a little bit more room. That sets us a $1.10 stop. So 1, 2, 3R in 6 minutes. So total in the trade time, total of 4 minutes, and then out of the trade here back at 194.10. Obviously, if you kept some, or you might want to keep some, I'm always, not always, but this would be one I'd be out of completely at 194.10, even though it's marching higher, and may even go higher from here. It was such a great quarter. So that's what I have for the trade. So trade worked out very nice overall. All right, let's switch over to Google Chrome. We'll talk about Roth IRA limits briefly. Okay, so again, if you're 50 or older, if you're under 50, it's 6,000. If it's over 50, it's 7,000 for the amount of money that you can put in. You do have all the way up to the tax filing date to be able to fund your IRAs, whether it's traditional or Roth. And that's an important note right here is you have until May 17th this year. If you haven't done your taxes yet, it is time. So get on it, if you will, so you don't put yourself in a square corner. It's interesting. One thing I ran into this year is I'm working with a new CPA, not for my personal taxes, but for a couple of clients. And it's interesting because the CPA I want to work with, he's already gone on a 30-day vacation that it's funny because he had planned it 2 years ago to leave on April 17th. So he's gone basically for the entire month as the lead CPA in his entire firm on a family vacation just because he couldn't move it. Um, normally CPAs are working, the 18, 20 hours a day up until the tax filing date, right? Because that's when they make all their money. But nope, he's gone. He's like, sorry, on vacation. I'll see y'all at when everything's over. All right. So key takeaways. Again, the reason you have up to there is so you can let the end of the year expire, figure out your actual income for the year to make sure you qualify, and then go back and fund these accounts. If you fund them during the current year and then you subsequently make too much, there is a way to undo it. It's not too painful, but you do want to avoid it if you can. Okay, there's the contribution limits. Yeah, I forgot. Actually, here in Texas, we do have until June 15th to file. We don't need to worry about that. We don't need. I mean, you can worry about it if you want, but I wouldn't extend that too much. You have to have earned income to contribute to an IRA, so pensions don't count. That sort of thing. Self-employment does. These things don't, right? So rental property income, interest and dividends, Social Security does not, retirement income, there's your pensions, your alimony, child support if you're on the non-working end of a divorce. So again, a lot of these things don't really count for you. If you do, if you're married and as long as one person has over either 12 or 14,000, depending on your ages of earned income, you can turn around and fund your spouse's IRA. A lot of folks don't know this, but again, you don't want to be penalized for the IRS does not want to penalize you for being a stay-at-home spouse, if you will. The income limits here are it says if you make too much money, you'll still be able to contribute to a Roth IRA using a backdoor Roth IRA. Just make sure you know exactly what you're doing if you're doing that on your own. Otherwise, use an advisor. So here's your 2020 and 2021 numbers. Again, I'm mostly transitioning to 2021 now, since 2020, most of those folks are already taken care of. Married filing jointly, though, you have all the way up to 208,000. So 198 is when you start to phase out. I kind of wish they would not do this, right? They just make a hard number. But I did have somebody go right in here, so we had to do all the calculations. There's a calculator to do it. But basically, a couple $100,000. If you're below that, you're safe. You can go right in your Roth IRAs. If you're above that, you have to do a backdoor Roth IRA. Single. Where's the single numbers here? This must be 125 is your number there if you are single. These are the traditional numbers, which are different. We're not talking about that today. And then, of course, your modified adjusted gross income. You have to look this up almost every time. What I do, or what I advise folks to do, is do your taxes and then just look at instead of trying to do all this in your head, it's like, or on Excel or whatever, it's just like, no, do your taxes and see what it is. And then once you see what it is, then you can know exactly where you stand. So it tells you which lines these are on the tax sheet, but also no matter what form you're using, there's going to be one of them that says modified adjusted gross income. I've always laughed at the modified and adjusted, kind of the same word, kind of a repeat, anyhow. Depending if you are within these income limits, I should say, which are pretty low, but hey, you could be in here, right? You can get a saver's credit, so you actually get paid for saving. I got this. It was kind of funny. It's like, what? How did I get this? From my first year out, when I did not have any income, I didn't take any income for 2 years out of the business because I was building a business, and I ended up qualifying for some other credits that I didn't know that even existed out there, but not so much anymore. All right, that's what I have for today. Again, congrats on the nice trade there in UPS, and big tech earnings is what we're keeping an eye on today. So Microsoft and Google after the bell today, setting up for Apple and Facebook tomorrow. With that, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Bye.